This is Hit Pause, a podcast made in San Francisco with more questions than answers. In today's episode, I basically just say hello world. For those of you who work in the Silicon Valley, you know that computer scientists and software development engineers, when they create their first program, their first application, or they want to connect with the application, they write a simple sentence where the computer talks to you and says, "Hello world." It felt to me that this would be a good metaphor to commence this little adventure together, doing podcasting with this metaphor. This is exciting, a new adventure. I have never used this medium. I typically write, typically engage with friends, and this is a very novel medium. We'll talk in this podcast about lots of themes, lots of things. I'll introduce myself in a second. Some of you already know me. But I want to first say that we live in and through extraordinary times these days. The pandemic, which is upon us, is compelling us to stay at home. It's forcing us, for those of us who can, to stay at home. Staying at home right now, having a roof, being able to eat, being able to go to the groceries, that's luxury, and not everybody has that. So my first thoughts will go to all of those who are left out, walking in the streets, or depending on long lines, waiting in line for getting some food from the food pantry, images that we start seeing on TV these days. But it feels like this moment, which is historic, unprecedented at least from our recollection, is giving us a chance to hit pause precisely. And for me to share lots of things that have been going on and brewing in my head and my heart for many, many years, maybe decades here in the Silicon Valley, which has been fueling so many of the technologies that are today making it possible to do this, for me to talk to you, for you to listen, for many to work from home, for many to get a diagnostic remotely from their doctor without having to go to the doctor's office to check in on them and share their fears if they have COVID or not. So technology is behind everything that we do and experience, and yet the questions that technology is bringing to society are ever so more powerful these days and probably unanswered. And the Silicon Valley, where I have been working for close to 30 years now, is busy running fast, creating those new technologies. And so maybe this will be a way for me to share thoughts about what we do and why and how we can do better. I said a few minutes ago that I would share a little bit who I am. Well, I'm French born. I have, a world citizenship, if you will. I have traveled the world to lots of countries, both for personal pleasure and professional work. I've been living in the Silicon Valley for 27 years here in San Francisco. I work in the technology sector of a large company that works on mapping and location technologies, but I have also worked in media, digital media, technologies of the media business. I have seen the evolution of the forms of media from broadcast television to on-demand television to the ability to create your own movies, the arrival of that on the cell phones, the emergence of social media where people could start sharing to the world their creation, and all those evolution of what it means to become or to be a consumer of media and a creator of media. What it means for the message to be intimately connected with the messenger and the way that the message is contained. So we'll talk about that through the courses of this podcast. We'll talk about the economy, we'll talk about psychology, we'll talk about human feelings, because the economy is intimately related to humanity. It is not really different, it is a different science, if you will, but when I was sitting in the benches of the business school in France a long time ago, I was always fascinated that the equations that we were learning, microeconomics, are actually built on individual human behavior, and that some actors, taken individually, have a little weight and others have a huge weight. But ultimately, the economy is fueled by the decision engines of individuals. And so we all carry within us the levers, sometimes with little leverage, sometimes with huge leverage of change, and the levers of the economy. And then we'll talk about who we are, the human race, because we think proudly that we have willpower, but the questions of consciousness and the subconscious are everywhere. So we'll discover what I mean by that through those meandering of my thoughts. So that's hit pause for a moment to start with. And now let's go to a short break to hit pause, reflect, or just simply go on. Welcome back to Hit Pause. So this is very new, very novel for me, so I'll just share a little bit about what you can expect, what I can expect as well as we go through this adventure together. I'm recording from my home office, which is not a professional studio, so maybe one day you'll hear some background noise in my podcast. Maybe there'll be kids laughing behind the window in the garden outside, or a plane taking off from the Oakland airport or the San Francisco airport, not far. This is life. So you'll learn that I have a tendency to want things to be perfect, but this is life. You plan and life happens. I'll try to also keep this as regular meeting as possible. I'm going to be recording a couple of episodes to start with, and launch quite a few at the beginning. I'll do my best to make this regular again, maybe trying to record during the weekend, make it a regular encounter so that we can follow the events, the current events, or just step back from them, whatever is the mood of the moment. But no promise, it's life again happening as I go through this. This is really a way for me to also slow down, because life has been a whirlwind over the past couple of years, and this is really nice to just reflect and share and maybe hear from you guys. The podcast will be up at anchor.fm, but it will also be syndicated through other podcast mediums, Apple iTunes and Apple Podcast, Spotify, many others. And I will put a roster of information, additional material, maybe on our website, on my website, which is uteza.com/podcast. So there you go. It's an adventure. I don't know where it's going to lead, but down the road we can make it a dialogue. This platform that I'm recording with has the advantage of being able to record with friends. Maybe I'll do interviews, and on the website anchor.fm/hitpause, you will be able to record a message, which will land into my queue here on my iPad, and I'll be able to play them back, maybe reply to them. So when I'm talking about a dialogue, even though the medium is podcast, and the technology is wonderful and will indeed enable that dialogue. And then you can find me on Twitter at Uteza, and on LinkedIn as well if you want, and surely on my website. So with this, I'm going to close for tonight. I'm going to go into a little legalese section and wish you a good night. This podcast is a simple way of sharing my thoughts. It is a personal endeavor, nothing more, a way to connect. The views and opinions represented in this podcast are solely mine. They are in no way, nor should they be assumed to be shared, supported, endorsed by my employer, the sponsors of this show, Anchor.fm, where it is hosted, and all the distributors thereof. You may find more information, links, pictures, videos, documents, and more, which I may have referenced in this podcast, on my website at www.uteza.com/podcast. There. It feels so much better after saying all these legalese. And so it's time to part ways, at least for now. Until next time, time to say good night. It's time to hit pause.